Chapter 27, Jim Dandy, Eel Tongue. So now Biz and Stump have talked to Claire. Now it's Jim Dandy's turn. I didn't squeal in surprise. Couldn't, not with Jim Dandy's hand covering my mouth. His palm was surprisingly soft, though clammy. I wanted a word in private, Jim Dandy breathed in my ear. When I nodded that I understood, he lifted his hand away and dropped an arm over my shoulder to let me know I wasn't going anywhere. I suppose Biz wants you to take Duke home, Jim Dandy said. He's afraid your cousin will help me be the hero of this expedition. And truth be told, you probably wouldn't mind getting him out of here either. River trolls aren't the best company for a boy and all that, even if he does have a horn and the start of a tail. What do you mean, a tail? I shouldn't be surprised. Wanting to seem bored, Jim Dandy yawned for show. The longer he runs with us, the likelier he is to sprout one. So I can see why you might want to get him home. Sooner, the better. You're probably thinking, well, if you're worried that I'll try to stop you, don't give it another thought. I'm behind you all the way on this one. For once, I'm thinking Biz is onto something. I'm confused. I thought Jim Dandy was the one that wanted Duke there. You are? Oh, yes, Jim Dandy assured me. I've come around to seeing that we all might be better off without Duke hanging around. I hate to say it. I mean, I love the guy and everything, but he's something of a loser. What I'm thinking is that there's somebody much better suited to take his place and help us get the crickets we need. By the way, that somebody is you. Hearing that made me swallow wrong, which started me coughing. Jim Dandy wiped off his red scarf and used it to muffle my coughs. No need to thank me, he said. I know you'll do everything you can to help us. With all that stone in your family? Uh-oh. Sounds like he's trying to blackmail her, saying if you don't help us, we won't be able to turn him back from stone. How do you think Claire's feeling with all of this? That was a threat, of course, and as soon as I was done coughing, I begrudgingly said, I see what you mean. I thought you might. Now why don't you share what Biz was telling you, and then we'll figure out what to do from there. Mostly he talked about how he was going to be king. Ah! Jim Dandy indignantly cried out. Realizing he'd been too loud, he sneaked a peek over the dune to check on Biz's whereabouts. Reporting that Biz was gone, Jim Dandy slid his arm off my shoulder, saying, Maybe I better straighten you out on a thing or two. Feel free to believe about half of what follows, maybe less. Did you know, Jim Dandy started out, that Biz's mother was afraid she'd never get rid of him? She offered me money to let him come with me and Stump. Yes, I know, it doesn't seem right, but that's the way it is sometimes. He's twice as old as me and Stump, you know. And that's because there's only one way to get around Bodacious Deepthink's curse, and that's to never get married and father a hatch. Bo's curse can't touch you then, and that's the way Biz was playing it too. Up until last fall. That's when his mother locked him out of their lodge and wouldn't let him back in until he got married. It was getting cold, ice was topping off the sloughs, and it took all that to convince Squeak Mossbottom to get hitched. Squeak? I blinked. That's what everybody really calls him. Biz is something he dreamed up. And who do you suppose he married? I wouldn't have any idea. The Crow-Leg sisters, Jim Dandy snorted. All three of them. Muck, Weed, and Scale. The Crow-Legs have been trying to marry those girls off for a century or more. They're ugly and mean as a bag of leeches that's just been sat on, and the only thing pretty about them is their warts. Trolls have a very different way of thinking about things, don't they? If they're so bad, I asked, why did he marry them? Their eyesight, Jim Dandy said with a shrug. Most troll wives claim they can see an hour or two ahead. The Crow-Leg sisters say they've got eyes that can see a whole day into the future. Maybe that's what makes them so mean. Knowing Squeak, he probably thought they would give him an edge in finding our fathers. Only one problem there. What's that? They're not here with us, are they? so they can't very well tell us what they can see. That's squeak all over. Plan everything out 100 different ways, then forget something so simple as that. And don't go thinking Stump's any better, Jim Dandy warned me. His mother was so afraid that he'd turn out like his brother Duckwad that she begged me to take him along. They're mighty lucky to have me, those two are. I'm about the only chance they have ever to make it back. Stump's wife told them so, too. I wonder how honest Jim Dandy is being, out of the three of them. How does she know? Wishy Gartooth, Jim Dandy said. She's been known to see clear into next week if the pay's good. What else did she see? I asked, not sure I wanted to know. Me, saving the day. The crown ring on my finger bit into my skin with that news, but I never let on that it was pinching me. Now listen up, Jim Dandy whispered, turning secretive. Here's the deal I'll cut you. I'll nab this when I got the ukuleles. Here he slapped a brass skeleton key in my hand. Take it and head down to the old lady's shop for that third screen. It opens the back door so you can slip in and out as easy as a breeze. That old lady won't be none the wiser. And once you've got that screen for me, I'll take care of getting Duke running home. How? Easiest thing in the world, Jim Dandy puffed. I'll tell him that we're going to drop him off the wagon of the wheelbridge if he doesn't quit tagging along. Yes, we all saw that. And don't fret about those people we turned to stone. After we get our lucky crickets, there'll be plenty of time to swing back by and tickle them with the old stone feather. They'll be good as new. Pointing me towards the river, he said, so you better get moving. The dugout's this way. So he wants her to go steal a screen. After escorting me a few steps, he snaps his nose funnels back in place and left me to it. The last I saw of him, he was lopping off on all fours, sniffing the sand as he went. The river wasn't a direction I was too keen on heading. After dark, floating logs aren't always floating logs, if you know what I mean. And paddling down the dark river in a troll boat that was as tippy as a leaf and smelly as a clam juice didn't sit too steady on my stomach. Breaking into the old lady's shop, considering how kind she'd been to me, didn't sit any better either. But I went. What other choices did I have? None that I could see, or at least not any I could see until I was just about to step into the dugout canoe. At that very moment, a river troll climbed out of the bushes to my left and declared, "Hold everything." Chapter 28. 2 cents eel tongue. I don't know, the same last name as Jim Dandy, so it's a relative of his. The troll who had come out of the bushes was a darkish blob about the size and shape of a door. How did I know it was a troll? The eyes. They did the usual orange dance. The smell of river bottom muck was the giveaway, too. Her hands were floating in front of her, ghastly like as if headed for my throat. Where do you think you're headed? She barked. So it's a she. There wasn't much doubt it was a she. Her voice, though snappish and bossy, was more musical than other trolls, and a purplish glow on her claws seemed more ladylike than manly. She must have been older, too, for she didn't wear the latest bicycle fashions, but a heavily patched wetsuit. Stopping 5 feet short of me, she gave me a good sniff and grumbled. You can use a little dirt behind the ears. Yes, ma'am, I nodded politely. And who might you be? Jim Dandy's mother, she said, much as he'd like to forget it. 2 cents eel tongue's my name. My mom wrote me about you, I said, more relieved than I cared to mention. Oh, I forgot about that note from her mom. She said you might help with my cousin Duke. He's the one with the horn? I'm afraid so. Now there is a boy with promise, she predicted. Tell you what, you do one little thing for me, and I'll help get your cousin home. I'll even give you some help with those stone people your mother seems so worried about. Interested? I am, I shivered. Take this screen to Jim Dandy. That was when I realized what she was holding a screen door between us. It'd been invisible in the dark, but sure enough, it explained why her hand seemed to be floating in front of her so funny, and why she looked square as a door. Nothing more? I was thinking a trap. Simple as that, she promised. Once they have the 3 screens, they won't be needing you or your cousin. You'll be free to take off, and once they have used the screens and paid their visit to Bodacious Deep Think, they'll have plenty of time to de-stone those people. Though why anyone would rather be human than stone is beyond me. What if I can't get my cousin to go? I asked. That's your problem. With a boy like Jim Dandy, I've got headaches of my own. I've done my best to raise that little mud bubble right, so it's all his father's fault. He was a coward too. Some boys will steal from their mother's purse 2 or 3 times a week without having to be nagged to do it. Not Jim Dandy. Oh no, I've been waiting years and years to catch him in there just once. And all the while I've had to listen to that silver dollar in my purse blabbing away about every little thing that boy's no good at. It's been a load, especially since he's married a leech licker, and I don't mind saying so. So it sounds like she wanted him to steal. So backwards from what we're used to. Yes, ma'am, I agreed. But what if your son still won't help with my grandpa and the others? Oh, settle down, 2 cents Eel Tongue muttered, annoyed. If you're so worried about that, all you have to do is make sure Bodacious Deep Think doesn't talk him into do anything stupid. How am I going to do that? Nothing to it. Go along with him. And if she does talk the little fool into something, I'll give you just the thing to fix it. A riddle. Guaranteed to drive Bodacious crazy or worse. Are you sure? Absolutely. It should give Jim Dandy all the time he needs to come to his senses and slip away. He ought to be able to get at least that much, right? Maybe so, I said. But how can I be sure he won't just disappear after he slips away? Stick with him. He'll need all the help he can get if he's going looking for that worthless father of his. Those so-called friends of his aren't any prizes. Now, do you want this riddle or not? I guess so, I said, if it's all you've got. Not so fast. 2 cents came back. If I'm handing out riddles, I want another favor, too. When you give Jim Dandy the screen, don't tell him you got it from me. Don't even tell him I was here. Say that you got it yourself, the way I heard him tell you to. Why? I asked. Why? She mimicked. What do you think happens if I take it to him? I'll tell you what. His partners won't ever let him live it down. Bad enough I had to make their mothers promise that those boys would take Jim Dandy along. Oh, the truth's coming out. Jim Dandy was saying that he was begged to take them, but now his mama's saying she begged them to take him. But it'd be worse yet if I showed up here. He'd probably run away and end up turned into a little girl like you, only cuter, of course, with pigtails and warts and frilly skirts. But wouldn't he be turned into a boy? I asked. Boy or girl, she said, laughing. It doesn't matter to Bodacious Deep Think's curse. Humans is all she said. And I don't want that worthless son of mine to be either, though it'd serve him right. But his father's already given the riffraff along this river enough to gab about. Fair enough. I allowed, skipping over what Jim Dandy's father had done. I never saw you. What's the riddle? Closing her eyes to concentrate, she recited, What dreams of red, mine's golden veins, makes a good stew and always complains. I had to ask her to repeat it twice, but she did with glee. Then I lipped it to myself several times, and all the while 2 cents Eel grew merrier and merrier. No one's ever solved this one, she said with a cackle. So how do you know? Because I just made it up. I was about to ask her to repeat it one more time when someone started shouting on the far side of the island. Other voices soon joined in, all of them excited. They found one, 2 cents said, sounding almost proud. For a second, she didn't actually seem like a mother. I didn't have time to dwell on it, though. Right away, Duke started bellowing my name from the top of the sandbar. Claire, Duke shouted. Claire, you've got 1 minute to get up here, or else. There went my last chance to solve the riddle. Jim Dandy, take this screen. 2 cents shoved it towards me. Forget I was ever here. What about the riddle? I reminded her. What's the answer? Leeches, she hissed, and with that she dove into the river without making so much of a ripple. Leeches? I guess you had to be a river troll to appreciate it. Lots of fun, interesting things happening.